The years following the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948 were marked by a complex web of alliances and rivalries on the global geopolitical stage. During the 1970s and 1980s, as the Cold War reached its peak, the Middle East became a region where the two superpowers vied for influence through regional allies, creating an environment conducive to intelligence operations of extraordinary sophistication. In this volatile context, one of the most controversial espionage operations in modern history would emerge. Between June 1984 and November 1985, a 29-year-old American naval analyst systematically transferred over 1 million pages of top-secret documents to Israeli handlers, using methods that combined operational audacity with systemic vulnerabilities in American security procedures. The discovery of this network would reveal not only the fragilities of the Pentagon's counterintelligence systems, but also the complex nature of relationships between allies during a period when nuclear paranoia and mutual distrust permeated every aspect of international politics. The case began with an apparently casual meeting at the Hilton Hotel restaurant in Washington, where documents on Saudi military capabilities and satellite images of the Israeli bombing of the Iraqi Osirak nuclear reactor changed hands in broad daylight. For 18 consecutive months, intelligence reports on Arab nuclear programs, the positioning of Soviet naval forces in the eastern Mediterranean, and detailed assessments of Syrian air defense systems crossed invisible borders, revealing secrets that could decisively alter the balance of power in a region already fragmented by millennia, old conflicts, and conflicting territorial ambitions. The infiltration of American intelligence institutions did not happen by chance, but resulted from a specific convergence of factors that included documented failures in the Navy's background check processes, the urgent expansion of the Counterterrorism Alert Center after the Beirut bombings in October 1983, and the critical need for analysts specialized in Middle Eastern issues during a period of military escalation in the region. The profile of analyst Jonathan Pollard exhibited characteristics that, retrospectively, constituted unequivocal signs of security risk. A documented history of admitted marijuana use on 600 occasions, the creation of false stories about family ties to the CIA in South Africa, and erratic behavior during polygraph examinations that included feigning nausea and episodes of fake vomiting. His education at Stanford University provided him not only with knowledge in political science and international relations, but also with a network of contacts that would facilitate his eventual recruitment through Aviam Seller, a colonel in the Israeli Air Force. The process of integration into the Naval Field Operational Intelligence Office structures occurred during the emergency expansion of personnel after the creation of ATAC, when security checks were accelerated due to the operational urgency created by the terrorist attacks that killed 241 American servicemen in Beirut. This urgency in hiring, combined with specific failures in communication between the CIA and the Navy regarding Pollard's prior rejection for civilian intelligence programs, created exploitable gaps that allowed unauthorized access to documents classified as sensitive compartmented information, including reports on Iraqi nuclear capabilities and intelligence assessments on Syrian military intentions. The establishment of the first contact in June 1984 between Pollard and Colonel Aviam Seller of the Israeli Air Force followed an unconventional recruitment pattern facilitated by Seymour Reich, a Jewish-American stockbroker who had identified Pollard as a potential source during social conversations about Middle East politics. The initial meeting at the Hilton Hotel restaurant in Washington was strategically chosen for its central location and constant flow of government employees, providing natural camouflage for activities that might seem suspicious in less busy locations. During this first encounter, Seller established a communication system based on public telephones, identified by Hebrew letters: Aleph for a phone near the Pentagon, Bet for another near the DuPont Circle subway station, and Gimel for a third, located at the Tysons Corner shopping mall in Virginia. The second meeting, also at the Hilton, marked the effective beginning of the information transfer, when Pollard delivered a top-secret study on Saudi ground military capabilities and classified photographs of the Israeli bombing of the Osirak nuclear reactor, obtained through American reconnaissance satellites, The methodology for establishing secure channels included specific telephone codes. Seller would call Pollard's residence in Chevy Chase and simply pronounce a Hebrew letter, indicating which public telephone should be used for the subsequent contact within 45 minutes. The Israeli handlers demonstrated particular interest in documents related to Soviet-supplied Syrian surface-to-air missile capabilities, intelligence reports on the movement of Jordanian troops near the West Bank border, and technical assessments of the Pakistani nuclear program that could affect the regional strategic balance through potential technology transfer to allied Arab countries. The operationalization of the network involved creating an infrastructure centered at the residence of the Israeli science attaché, Ilan Ravid, in Potomac, Maryland, where a second-floor room was converted into a processing center equipped with high-speed photocopiers and microfilming equipment. Pollard established a regular schedule of bi-weekly deliveries, transporting documents in executive leather briefcases that held up to 200 pages of classified material per trip. The methods for extracting information from ATAC facilities specifically exploited the liberal access policy implemented to facilitate urgent analyses after Beirut. Analysts could review documents outside their specific areas of responsibility without rigorous supervision, creating opportunities for Pollard to access reports on Egyptian military capabilities, intelligence assessments of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, and technical analyses of Soviet anti-aircraft missile systems supplied to Syria. The frequency of transfers followed a specific pattern, alternating Wednesday meetings in the White Flint Shopping Center parking lot in Rockville, where Pollard delivered documents in sealed manila envelopes that were immediately transported for processing. Among the most valuable documents transferred were weekly Naval Intelligence Office reports on Soviet warship movements in the Eastern Mediterranean, monthly DIA analyses of Soviet-supplied Syrian tank capabilities, and quarterly CIA assessments of the progress of the Iraqi nuclear program based on high-resolution satellite imagery. Particular attention was dedicated to information related to Iraq's development of ballistic missiles, whose Condor II program represented a direct threat to Israeli cities and required detailed intelligence on development timelines, range capabilities, and potential for equipping with chemical or biological warheads. The extraordinary volume of processed material reached its peak during the summer of 1985, when it came to include 500 weekly pages of photographed documents, catalogued according to a classification system developed by the handlers that prioritized information on offensive Arab capabilities, the positioning of American forces that could affect Israeli operations, and threat assessments that would influence decisions on preemptive military action. The established compensation system followed specific protocols that included monthly payments of $2,500 deposited into a Swiss bank account opened under a fictitious name, as well as valuable gifts such as Rolex watches and jewelry totaling approximately $45,000 throughout the operation. The payments were structured to avoid financial patterns that could arouse attention from the Internal Revenue Service or routine security audits. Regular monthly deposits in round amounts were avoided in favor of irregular transfers that simulated family gifts or investment earnings. During their honeymoon trip to Paris in November 1985, Pollard and his wife Anne met with Rafi Eitan, director of LACAM, the Israeli Scientific Liaison Bureau, at the Hotel Bristol on Rue du Faubourg Saint-Honoré, where they received specific instructions on emergency protocols that included codes to activate escape plans and addresses of safe houses in Montreal and Toronto. This overseas meeting also served to establish Pollard's new operational identity as Danny Cohen, chosen in honor of Eli Cohen, the famous Israeli spy executed in Syria in 1965, providing a false Israeli passport and identity documents that would allow rapid evacuation in case of compromise. During the Parisian meeting, Eitan provided Pollard with a specific list of 10 priority information categories: Syrian air defense capabilities, positioning of Soviet naval forces, Iraqi missile programs, Soviet-Arab military cooperation, Egyptian electronic warfare capabilities, analyses of Jordanian political stability, assessments of terrorist threats against Israeli targets, information on American arms sales to Arab countries, reports on Pakistani nuclear programs, and data on military cooperation between Libya and the Soviet Union. The emergency protocols included the use of a specific code word, wedding album, which would indicate the need for immediate destruction of evidence and activation of escape plans through the Israeli embassy, demonstrating operational sophistication that anticipated possible discovery scenarios and the need for rapid extraction of compromised operatives. The growing operational audacity began to generate specific alerts when ATAC security auditors identified discrepancies in electronic access logs. Pollard had consulted 273 classified documents outside his area of responsibility during a 6-week period in September 1985, including reports on Syrian missile capabilities that were unrelated to his official analytical functions. The suspicious behavior intensified with observations from colleagues about his regular stay in the office until 10 p.m., carrying voluminous briefcases that did not correspond to his known projects, and unusual interest in documents related to the Iraqi nuclear program that was being monitored by a different team. The initial detection resulted from a routine audit of the DIAC, Defense Intelligence Analysis Center system, which revealed an anomalous pattern. Between June 1984 and October 1985, Pollard had accessed 1,847 classified documents, an extraordinarily high number compared to the 312 accesses for the average analyst with similar responsibilities. The specific discrepancies included access to reports on the positioning of Soviet nuclear submarines in the Mediterranean, analyses of Libyan-Soviet military cooperation, and detailed assessments of Jordan's air defense systems that had no connection to his official responsibilities related to the Americas. The FBI investigation under the command of Special Agent Ronald Olive used electronic surveillance that detected specific patterns, regular phone calls to unidentified numbers, invariably followed by departures from the ATAC building within 15-minute intervals, suggesting the coordination of meetings through external communication systems. Investigative techniques included forensic analysis of photocopied documents that revealed specific paper manufactured by Kodak with characteristics allowing tracking through serial numbers, as well as fingerprint analysis on materials found in Pollard's residence that corresponded to classified documents reported as lost or misplaced. The critical moment arrived in November 1985, when phone intercepts recorded the code word wedding album during a call between Pollard and an unidentified number, activating emergency protocols that led to the frustrated attempt to seek asylum at the Israeli embassy on International Drive. The geopolitical ramifications of the espionage operation extended far beyond immediate security violations, touching upon fundamental questions about the nature of alliances during the Cold War and the ethical limits of intelligence operations between theoretically allied countries. The systematic compromise of American classified information by a regional ally raised profound questions about mutual trust and the intelligence sharing mechanisms that formed the basis of security cooperation in the Middle East. Retrospective analysis of the transferred documents revealed that much of the information obtained through this operation was subsequently used in strategic decisions that directly affected the regional balance of power, including preemptive military operations and changes in defense policies that would not have been possible without access to American intelligence assessments. The most significant impact of this security breach manifested itself in the erosion of trust between American intelligence agencies and their regional partners, creating an environment of mutual suspicion that would affect future cooperation on critical national security issues. The discovery that information on the military capabilities of Arab countries had been systematically transferred to Israel generated diplomatic tensions that extended for decades, influencing peace negotiations and regional security agreements. The methodology employed in the operation also revealed structural vulnerabilities in American security systems that were subsequently exploited by other foreign intelligence services, creating a dangerous precedent for future security breaches. The recruitment and control techniques used in this case became the subject of intensive study in counterintelligence training academies, serving as a paradigmatic example of the risks associated with the infiltration of intelligence services by elements with divided loyalties. The sophistication of the cover operations and the use of diplomatic infrastructure to process stolen documents demonstrated a level of coordination among different branches of the Israeli intelligence services that surprised even the most experienced analysts in the American intelligence community. The investigation process that led to the eventual dismantling of the espionage network involved a complex counterintelligence operation that lasted several months and mobilized significant resources from multiple federal agencies. Coordination among different government departments proved essential to track all ramifications of the operation and identify the total extent of the compromise of classified information. Investigators faced the additional challenge of conducting their activities without alerting the suspects, using techniques of discrete surveillance and forensic analysis that allowed for building a solid case without compromising the integrity of the investigation. The discovery that the operation involved not only the main agent, but also a support network that included family members and external contacts significantly complicated the investigative process and required the implementation of extraordinary security measures to prevent the destruction of evidence. During the most intense phases of the investigation, it became evident that the suspects had developed sophisticated emergency protocols to destroy incriminating evidence in case of discovery, including the use of secret codes and alert signals that could be activated instantly. The interception of these emergency signals provided investigators with a critical window of opportunity to act before all evidence was destroyed, leading to a race against time to preserve crucial evidence of the espionage operation. The decisive moment came when the suspects attempted to activate their escape protocols, heading to diplomatic facilities in the hope of obtaining protection and possibly escaping the legal consequences of their actions. This desperate attempt to seek diplomatic asylum confirmed the investigators' suspicions about the nature of the clandestine activities and provided the final evidence needed to proceed with the arrests. The refusal of diplomatic authorities to offer protection to the fugitives marked the effective end of the espionage operation and the beginning of a new phase focused on quantifying the damage caused to American national security. Forensic analysis of the seized materials during searches revealed the extraordinary scale of the espionage operation, including over 1 million pages of classified documents that had been systematically copied and transferred over 18 months. The variety and sensitivity of the compromised documents encompassed virtually every aspect of American security policy in the Middle East, from intelligence assessments of individual countries' military capabilities to strategic analyses of regional geopolitical trends. Among the most sensitive documents discovered were detailed reports on emerging nuclear programs, including technical assessments of the progress of specific countries in developing military nuclear capabilities. The discovery of highly classified satellite photographs among the seized materials revealed that the operation had compromised not only analytical information, but also technical intelligence data that revealed capabilities and limitations of American reconnaissance systems. Investigators also found evidence that information on the positioning and movement of American military forces in the region had been systematically collected and transferred, creating operational vulnerabilities that could have been exploited by regional adversaries. The methodology used to process and analyze the stolen documents demonstrated a level of sophistication that suggested the involvement of professional analysts experienced in extracting relevant information from large volumes of classified material. Identification codes found on the processed documents indicated that the information was categorized according to its relevance to different aspects of Israeli security policy, including direct military threats, diplomatic opportunities, and the development of defensive capabilities. The discovery of detailed plans for future military operations among the compromised documents revealed that the espionage operation had potentially affected not only present security, but also long-term strategic planning that could have lasting implications for regional stability. Analysis of document selection patterns also suggested that the operation's handlers possessed intimate knowledge of the organizational structures of American intelligence agencies, allowing them to target their efforts toward the most valuable and relevant sources of information. The legal process that followed the discovery of the espionage operation faced unique challenges related to the sensitive nature of the compromised information and the diplomatic implications of prosecuting American citizens for spying on behalf of an official ally. Judicial authorities had to balance the need to hold the guilty accountable with the requirements to protect additional classified information that could be revealed during the judicial process. The defense strategy adopted by the accused focused on arguments about ideological motivations and the nature of the relationship between the United States and Israel, attempting to minimize the seriousness of the charges through appeals to broader geopolitical considerations. During preliminary hearings, it became evident that the total extent of the damage caused by the espionage operation would be difficult to quantify due to the sensitive nature of the information involved and the potential implications for ongoing intelligence operations. Testimony from national security experts during the trial revealed that the compromise of certain types of classified information could have lasting consequences for the American ability to collect intelligence in the region, affecting future operations and the safety of human sources. The public revelation of details about the operation through the judicial process generated intense debates about the limits of transparency in national security cases and the need to protect intelligence methods and sources even during legal proceedings. Governmental authorities expressed concerns that the publicity generated by the case could encourage other espionage attempts by foreign intelligence services, demonstrating both the vulnerabilities and the detection methods used by American counterintelligence agencies. The final sentence reflected the seriousness of the security breaches committed, establishing an important precedent for future cases involving espionage by nominal allies of the United States. The implications of the case extended beyond immediate legal consequences, influencing significant reforms in the security procedures of intelligence agencies and in the background check protocols for employees with access to classified information. Diplomatic consequences of extraordinary magnitude reverberated through strategic alliances. When seized documents revealed that Israel had used American intelligence to plan the bombing of the Iraqi Osirak nuclear reactor in 1981, an operation carried out 4 years before the official start of Pollard's spying, but facilitated by similar information obtained through other sources. The specific revelation that weekly Navy reports on Soviet ship positioning had allowed Israel to anticipate naval blockades during regional conflicts forced a complete renegotiation of naval sharing protocols between the two nations. Emergency diplomatic conversations conducted by Secretary of State George Shultz and Israeli Foreign Minister Yitzhak Shamir during December 1985 established specific safeguards: the creation of a joint oversight committee to monitor future intelligence transfers, the implementation of unique identification codes for sensitive documents, and the establishment of quarterly audits conducted by binational teams. Specific tensions emerged when analysis revealed that information on American Patriot missile capabilities had been shared with the Israeli defense industry, potentially compromising American technological advantages in future regional conflicts. Arab countries allied with the United States, particularly Saudi Arabia and Egypt, expressed formal concerns through diplomatic channels about the security of military information they provided, resulting in a temporary suspension of intelligence cooperation programs that had been essential for monitoring Soviet activities in the region. The public management of the crisis involved careful coordination between the State Department and the Israeli Foreign Ministry to avoid rhetorical escalation. Official statements were limited to general acknowledgements of the seriousness of the violations without specifying details that could compromise still active collection methods. Revolutionary transformations in national security procedures resulted directly from the forensic analysis of this operation, including a complete review of 643 employees with top-secret clearances, the installation of biometric retina recognition systems in all naval intelligence facilities, and the implementation of the Continuous Behavioral Monitoring Program, which used algorithms to detect anomalies in work patterns, financial spending, and personal relationships. Specific reforms included replacing all existing copying systems with equipment that automatically recorded user fingerprints and facial photographs, establishing protocols that required authorization from 2 supervisors for access to documents classified as sensitive compartmented information, and creating centralized databases that tracked every consulted document with precise timestamps and complete biometric identification. New security criteria established that analysts with Middle East-related responsibilities would undergo intensive psychological evaluations every 4 months, conducted by specialists in detecting conflicts of loyalty, specifically trained in the recruitment techniques identified through the Pollard case. Automated financial checks were implemented to monitor bank accounts, credit cards, and investments of authorized employees, with automatic alerts activated by unusual transactions, regular deposits from unidentified sources, or spending that substantially exceeded known salaries. Expanded educational programs included realistic simulations where actors trained by the FBI represented foreign recruitment agents, using the same techniques employed by Seller and Eitan. Approaches through social contacts, offers of financial compensation disguised as consultancies, and appeals to ethnic or ideological loyalties that had proven effective in the original recruitment. The systematic analysis of the failures that allowed the espionage operation revealed structural vulnerabilities that extended beyond the specific case, including gaps in background check processes, deficiencies in systems for monitoring access to classified documents, and inadequacies in personal security protocols for employees with high-level clearances. The implementation of comprehensive reforms involved not only changes in operational procedures, but also significant investments in advanced security technologies and expanded training programs for security and counterintelligence personnel. The new background check protocols introduced as a result of this experience included more rigorous psychological evaluations, expanded financial checks, and continuous monitoring of behaviors that could indicate security vulnerabilities or potential for recruitment by foreign intelligence services. The reform of classified document access control systems involved the implementation of electronic tracking technologies that allowed real-time monitoring of who accessed specific information and how these documents were used within government facilities. Security education programs were significantly expanded to include regular training on recognizing recruitment attempts, techniques for resisting external pressures, and protocols for reporting suspicious contacts with individuals who could pose security risks. The creation of early warning systems based on behavioral analysis allowed for faster identification of activity patterns that could indicate developing espionage activities, providing counterintelligence authorities with more effective tools to detect and prevent future violations. Coordination among different security agencies was significantly improved through the implementation of information sharing systems that allowed faster identification of potential threats and more effective coordination of investigative responses. These reforms established new standards for the security of classified information that would influence national security practices, not only in the United States, but also in allied countries that adopted similar elements of the new security protocols. The period of incarceration provided unique opportunities to study the psychological motivations behind national treason, contributing to a more sophisticated understanding of the factors that predispose individuals to espionage. Extensive interviews with the convicted agent revealed a complex mixture of divided ideological loyalties, dissatisfaction with specific governmental policies regarding Israel, and financial pressures that facilitated his collaboration with foreign handlers. Detailed psychological analysis provided insights into the mental processes that allow for the rationalization of acts against national security, including defense mechanisms that facilitate the justification of activities contrary to national interests. During years of imprisonment, he participated in studies on espionage that contributed to the development of more accurate profiles of individuals vulnerable to recruitment by foreign services. Public statements made during incarceration revealed an evolution in his justifications, demonstrating how individuals involved in espionage continue to rationalize decisions even when confronted with the full consequences. The case became the subject of study in national security programs, providing educational material for future generations of counterintelligence professionals on warning signs and behavioral patterns associated with espionage. Retrospective analysis of the operational techniques revealed significant innovations that would influence global intelligence practices. The creation of a communications infrastructure using public telephones established new standards for urban clandestine operations. Protocols included Hebrew code systems allowing secure communications even with compromised channels, demonstrating planning that would characterize modern operations. Over 18 months, the network adapted to changes in security conditions, modifying procedures in response to alterations in ATC protocols. Coordination between Pollard, Anne, and the handlers functioned with a precision suggesting extensive experience and significant organizational resources. Processing in diplomatic facilities exploited the complexities of international law and American jurisdictional limitations. The speed of processing indicated a developed analytical infrastructure capable of extracting information from diverse materials. Methods for masking real dimensions included plausible narratives explaining suspicious behavior, demonstrating meticulous operational attention. The operation revealed risk analysis and crisis management capabilities, including plans for situations that would compromise operatives or the continuity of activities. The economic and strategic consequences of the massive transfer of classified information manifested themselves in multiple dimensions that affected not only bilateral relations between the United States and Israel, but also the broader geopolitical balance in the Middle East during subsequent decades. The use of information obtained through this operation in later strategic decisions can be traced through open intelligence analyses that reveal correlations between the compromised data and subsequent military and diplomatic actions that could not have been executed without access to this specific information. The strategic value of the transferred information transcended its immediate utility, providing long-term analytical and planning capabilities that would influence defense policies and regional strategies for years after the end of the active operation. The discovery that information on Arab countries' weapons development programs had been systematically collected and analyzed had direct implications for the regional military balance, potentially affecting the timelines for developing defensive capabilities and deterrence strategies. The compromised intelligence assessments included not only analyses of current military capabilities, but also projections on future developments that could have enabled preemptive actions or anticipated defensive preparations. The impact on commercial and technological cooperation relations between the United States and Middle Eastern countries was substantial, creating hesitations about sharing sensitive technical information that could be vulnerable to future security breaches. Trust in established diplomatic communications and intelligence channels was significantly shaken, leading to renegotiations of existing cooperation agreements and the implementation of more rigorous security protocols for future collaborations. The precedent set by this operation influenced the perceptions of other countries about the security of their own information shared with the United States, leading some allies to implement additional protection measures or limit the scope of information provided through bilateral cooperation channels. The implications for nuclear non-proliferation policy were particularly significant, considering that much of the compromised information related to assessments of emerging nuclear programs in the region, potentially affecting the effectiveness of international efforts to prevent the proliferation of military nuclear capabilities. The analysis of the indirect costs of the security breach included not only the resources needed to reform security systems and conduct extensive investigations, but also the opportunity costs resulting from the erosion of trust in existing mechanisms of international cooperation. The evolution of counterintelligence techniques, as a direct result of the lessons learned from this espionage operation, established new paradigms for the detection and prevention of espionage activities that continue to influence contemporary national security practices. The implementation of behavioral monitoring systems based on pattern analysis allowed for the development of more sophisticated indicators of suspicious activities, including subtle alterations in work routines, patterns of access to information, and social behaviors that could suggest involvement in clandestine activities. Training programs developed to educate employees on recognizing recruitment attempts incorporated elements based on the specific techniques used in this case, providing concrete examples of how apparently innocent approaches could represent the beginning of more extensive recruitment operations. The creation of integrated alert systems connecting multiple security agencies allowed for faster identification of activity patterns that could indicate coordinated espionage operations, significantly improving the response capability of counterintelligence authorities. Security technologies implemented as a result of this experience included advanced physical and electronic access control systems that provide detailed tracking of all interactions with classified materials, creating comprehensive audit trails that facilitate future investigations. Protocols for continuous verification of employees with security clearances were expanded to include regular monitoring of financial, behavioral, and social indicators that could suggest vulnerability to external pressures or changes in personal circumstances that could affect security reliability. International cooperation in counterintelligence was significantly strengthened through the sharing of information on operational techniques identified in this case, allowing allies to implement preventive measures based on American experiences. The development of more refined psychological profiles of individuals vulnerable to recruitment incorporated specific insights obtained through extensive analyses of the agent involved in this operation, contributing to more effective methods